Let me tell y'all something. Everybody want to be grown in relationships, but ain't nobody ready for the grown folk truth. See, nowadays folks out here talking about we should move in together before marriage, just to test it out. Like marriage is a car and you got to take it for a test drive before you buy it. But let me help you understand something. People ain't cars. Relationships ain't test drives. You don't try it out and then swap it back if it don't fit. Now I know what some of y'all thinking, but we need to see if we're compatible before we get married. That sounds good in theory. It's cute. But what you're really saying is, let me practice being married without the responsibility of being married. And that's where the problems start. See, moving in before marriage ain't the same as marriage. You think you're gonna find out how they live, how they brush their teeth, whether they leave dishes in the sink. Yeah, you'll find that out. But what you won't get is the commitment, the vow, the promise that says, no matter how many dishes pile up, I'm in this with you. When you live together before marriage, you're giving away the benefits of the package without requiring the promise. It's like showing somebody the whole movie for free and then expecting them to buy a ticket later. Why would they? They already saw the movie, and let's be real, if the movie wasn't all that good, they're gonna be like, nah, I'm good. And here's the kicker. When you move in without that real commitment, you start arguing about things that married couples argue about, but without the glue that keeps married couples together. Bills, responsibilities, habits. Oh, you gonna argue. But when you don't have that vow, that foundation, it's too easy to say, you know what, I'm out. And that, I'm out, becomes the easy button. Some of y'all living like husband and wife, but when it gets hard, you breaking up like boyfriend and girlfriend. Let me tell you, trials are coming either way. Marriage ain't perfect. Relationships ain't perfect. But the difference is in marriage, you've declared, I'm not walking away just because you get on my nerves. You don't get to pack your little duffel bag and go to your mama's house just because y'all had an argument over toothpaste. You stuck. You got to work it out. And that's what makes the love stronger. So don't fall for this lie that moving in together first makes marriage easier. It don't. It makes breaking up easier. It makes treating commitment like an option instead of a decision. If you want to know whether y'all can make it in marriage, don't move in, build trust, build communication, build respect. Because that's what gonna carry you, not whether somebody leaves socks on the floor. See, everybody want to skip steps, but love don't work like that. You got to respect the process. Otherwise, you gonna learn the hard way that practicing marriage without the marriage don't get you closer to the promisee. It just gets you comfortable with temporary. When people decide to move in together before marriage, what they often don't realize is that they're giving away the benefits of the relationship without requiring the real commitment that holds it together. Living together might seem like the smart move. It looks convenient. It feels like a way to test drive the relationship. But in reality, it's setting up a situation where one person is enjoying all the perks without stepping up to the responsibility that comes with those perks. Think about it. If someone already has the comfort of your presence every day, the meals, the companionship, the intimacy, the partnership and bills, the emotional support, then what exactly is motivating them to move forward into marriage? Marriage is supposed to be the ultimate promise, the place where you stand up and declare your devotion for life. But when you hand over all of that ahead of time, you leave very little room for urgency to make that promise. It's like handing someone a job title without requiring them to earn it first. No training, no qualifications, just the benefits. At first it feels good, it feels exciting, but over time one or both partners begin to realize that the lines are blurred. They're living as if they're married, but they don't actually have the covenant, the vow, or the binding commitment to back it up. That makes it easier to drift, easier to take each other for granted, easier to walk away when things don't go smoothly. It also creates an uneven playing field where one person might believe moving in is a step toward marriage, while the other person sees it as a way to avoid making that decision at all. There's a big difference between testing how someone folds laundry and learning if they're truly built to go through life storms with you. Today stuff can be figured out, but the promise to stay to stand firm when money is tight, when jobs are lost, when health fails, when family drama hits, that's the commitment marriage carries. Without that, living together just becomes a way to enjoy the rewards without the responsibility, the pleasure without the pledge, the lifestyle without the lifetime. It's not that moving in makes someone a bad person. It's that it tricks people into believing they're practicing for marriage when really they're participating in something entirely different. A halfway arrangement that feels like the real thing, but doesn't carry the power to hold two people together. When life starts applying pressure, a lot of people think that if they move in together before marriage, they'll be able to find out if they're truly compatible. They treat compatibility like it's about watching how someone lives, whether they squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom or the middle, whether they stay up late or wake up early, whether they're messy or organized. Those things are easy to spot when you share a space, but compatibility isn't measured by how neatly someone keeps a closet. It's measured by how committed they are to building something lasting with you. True compatibility shows up in how two people handle conflict, how they communicate when they're hurt, how they respect each other's differences, and how they support one another's dreams. Those qualities aren't revealed just by cohabiting. They're revealed by the commitment of two people who have chosen to stand by each other through more than convenience. Living together before marriage can give the illusion of closeness, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee a stronger bond. You can know someone's daily habits and still not know how they'll act when real-life challenges come knocking. Commitment is the glue that turns two individuals into a team. It's what keeps a couple pushing forward when life doesn't go as planned. Without that foundation, compatibility looks fragile because there's nothing anchoring the relationship. You might feel like you're testing marriage by living together, but in truth, you're missing the very element that makes marriage work in the first place, which is the decision to commit no matter what storms arise. Some people confuse comfort with compatibility. Just because it feels easy to share a bed or a living room doesn't mean you're ready for a life partnership. True compatibility requires patience, sacrifice, compromise, and vision. It's the ability to grow together, to weather hardships, and to put each other first even when it's inconvenient. Those things can't be proven just by cohabiting, because living together without a commitment leaves the door open for walking away whenever it gets uncomfortable. Compatibility that stands the test of time is forged in commitment, not convenience. The truth is, you don't discover if you're right for each other by moving in. You discover it by showing up consistently, by proving loyalty, by honoring the promises you make when it's not easy to keep them. When two people decide to live together before marriage, the idea often comes with the belief that it will somehow make their future marriage stronger. The thought is, if we can get through living together, then marriage will be easier. But what actually happens more often is the opposite. Cohabitation doesn't strengthen the bond. It makes leaving the relationship far simpler. Without the vows, without that clear commitment, every argument, every disagreement, every setback comes with an open exit door. When couples who are not married live together, the stakes feel lower, so the effort to work through challenges isn't always the same. It becomes easier to say, I'm done, because the bond has not been secured in the same way marriage demands. Living together creates an environment where you deal with shared bills, chores, habits, and responsibilities, but without the protection of permanence. You argue about money, about household duties, about who's pulling their weight, the same way married couples do. But the difference is, married couples know they made a vow to stay. That vow changes how problems are approached. Instead of planning an exit strategy, they look for solutions because they have already promised to each other that walking away is not the first option. When you live together before marriage, there is no anchor holding you steady in a storm, so the easiest path often becomes separation instead of resolution. It's also important to realize that the mindset is different when the commitment has not been made official. In marriage, both partners recognize that there is no easy out, which forces growth, patience, compromise, and a deeper sense of accountability. When you're just living together, accountability isn't always taken as seriously. Someone might think, if this doesn't work, I can just pack my things and leave. That thought alone weakens the effort required to build a lasting bond. The habits formed in this kind of arrangement don't necessarily prepare people for marriage. Instead, they can normalize temporary solutions, casual commitment, and easy exits. When breaking up becomes a natural option, it conditions both people to see relationships as disposable instead of sacred. So, while it might appear like a rehearsal for marriage, living together without the covenant often undermines the seriousness that marriage requires. What you end up practicing isn't long-term commitment, but short-term convenience, and that makes it much easier to walk away instead of working through the hard parts that actually make love endure. The belief that living together before marriage will prepare a couple for what's ahead overlooks one important truth. The real tests of love don't show up until after the vows are exchanged. When two people are dating or even cohabiting, there is still a sense of freedom, the knowledge that if things become overwhelming, either one can step away without too much consequence. But when marriage enters the picture, the dynamic shifts entirely. Suddenly, every decision, every challenge, every obstacle is approached with the weight of permanence. You're no longer thinking about whether you want to be with this person. You've already promised that you are with this person. And that shift changes everything. The true challenges that define a relationship rarely have to do with who cooks dinner or who leaves the lights on. They reveal themselves when life gets heavy, when jobs are lost, when illness strikes, when financial pressure builds, or when family responsibilities become overwhelming. These are the moments that test patience, loyalty, sacrifice, and endurance. Living together before marriage doesn't simulate those trials. It only simulates convenience. You see someone's habits and routines, but you don't necessarily see how they will respond when life throws something unexpected and painful at both of you. Marriage demands a deeper level of resilience because the option to easily walk away has been removed, and it's in that space that true love and true partnership are tested without vows. The relationship still carries an invisible exit sign hanging over it. That alone changes how people handle problems. Small disagreements that might be worked through in a committed marriage can become deal breakers in a living arrangement because the security of permanence isn't there to push both people toward resolution. When you've declared vows, when you've stood before each other and before others and made that promise, it creates a foundation that forces growth, accountability, and perseverance. It gives both people a reason to fight for the relationship instead of retreating at the first sign of difficulty. The real tests of love are not about whether you can share closet space or split grocery bills. They are about whether you can weather storms together without giving up, whether you can forgive when forgiveness feels hard, and whether you can stand side by side when the weight of life gets heavy. Those lessons don't reveal themselves in the comfort of cohabitation. They emerge only when the vow has been made and the commitment is no longer just words, but a binding promise. A lot of people assume that sharing the same roof before marriage is the ultimate way to prove whether a relationship can last. But the truth is the foundation of a strong partnership is not built on sharing a closet or splitting rent. What truly carries a couple forward is trust, respect, and communication. Those three qualities can't be tested by simply moving in together, because living together doesn't guarantee that a couple is working on those deeper layers of the relationship. Trust is built when two people consistently show up for each other, when they prove through their actions that they are dependable and loyal. Respect is demonstrated when each person values the other's individuality, goals, and boundaries. And communication is about learning how to express feelings without tearing each other down, how to listen without judgment, and how to solve problems as a team. When couples move in together without marriage, the focus often shifts to the logistics of daily life. Who pays which bill? Who cleans? Who takes care of errands? Those are practical matters, but they don't automatically strengthen the bond. Without the deeper commitment, it's easy to avoid addressing the real issues because there's no binding reason to work through them. A person might ignore problems or walk away from them instead of confronting them honestly. But when a couple focuses on building trust, respect, and communication, they develop the tools to handle challenges regardless of whether they live together or not. Those tools are what truly prepare people for marriage because they build resilience and a shared vision for the future. Communication especially is where many relationships rise or fall. Living together doesn't guarantee better communication. In fact, it can sometimes make communication worse because people begin assuming the other person knows what they feel or need. But when couples take the time to intentionally work on how they talk to each other, how they handle conflict, and how they support one another's dreams, they are laying down the real foundation of partnership. Trust creates safety, respect creates equality, and communication creates clarity. Those things matter far more than whether someone leaves socks on the floor or prefers the thermostat a little warmer. When the time comes for marriage, the couples who thrive are not the ones who practice cohabiting, but the ones who practiced honesty, patience, forgiveness, and mutual respect. When two people decide to live together before marriage, what often happens is they begin to treat the arrangement as if it's preparing them for the future, when in reality it's creating a comfort zone that makes them settle for temporary. Practicing marriage without the actual commitment of marriage doesn't condition you for the lifelong work it takes to stay together. It conditions you to get used to convenience. You start sharing bills, sharing space, and sharing routines, but at the back of your mind, you both know it isn't permanent unless someone decides to make it permanent. That thought alone changes how much effort you put in, because there is always the idea that if things don't feel right, leaving is an option. This type of arrangement can create a false sense of security. It feels like a stability, but it's really just comfort, and comfort can be misleading People can stay in these living situations for years without ever moving closer to a real commitment because they've gotten used to the benefits without the responsibility. The longer it goes on, the more it becomes normalized to enjoy intimacy, companionship, and partnership without the binding vow to stay no matter what. What happens then is the relationship doesn't evolve, it just cycles in a holding pattern, and both people get accustomed to something that feels safe but isn't truly secure. Marriage requires sacrifice, responsibility, and dedication. It calls for a level of maturity that says, even when this gets hard, I'm staying. But when you practice marriage without marriage, you're really practicing how to enjoy the good without preparing for the hard. That habit can follow you into the real thing because instead of being trained to fight for the relationship, you've been trained to walk away whenever the situation becomes uncomfortable. Comfort with temporary is dangerous because it teaches you to accept less than what you deserve, and it keeps you from experiencing the growth that comes with true commitment. It might seem harmless to test things out, but what's actually being tested isn't the strength of the bond, it's the patience of two people living in limbo. You aren't really learning how to endure or how to deepen love. You're learning how to manage a lifestyle that can be picked up or put down whenever one person decides it's no longer working. That's not preparation for marriage. That's rehearsal quitting. And over time, it builds a mindset where temporary feels normal and permanence feels optional.